Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at updating some older decks with all of the new cards and tools that BT04 has to offer. So today's deck that I'm going to be updating is going to be on the infamous Red-Yellow Security Control deck. So Red-Yellow Security Control is a very powerful deck to be playing around with just because the whole idea of the deck is you're actually going to be playing more from your security than from your hand, and even though you're going to be doing only a limited number of actions, each one of those actions is going to be very, very powerful because it's all about enforcing and reinforcing your security to be as powerful as it possibly can be. So going over the deck, starting with the Digitama, I'm going to be running one copy of Koromon. So this could really be any red Digitama you feel like you want to use, but it just has to be a red Digitama, and you only need one because you're never going to be Digivolving on top of it. Literally all the Digitama is in the deck for is to act as a red source on the field, so that way you could utilize your red option cards without the need of running a red Tamer. Next, on to the rookies. I'm going to be running 3 copies of Salamon. So this is the BT02 Salamon, and this Salamon is really good because she has this nice on-delete ability where if we have 3 or fewer cards in our security, then we get to recover 1. So this is just pretty good because it allows us to constantly have another source and another way to recover our security, and the name of the game is just security control, so anytime we could try to put a card into our security is usually a really good thing. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Lopmon. So Lopmon is a pretty decent Digimon to be running because she has this nice on-play ability where we get to look at the top card of our security stack, then we may add that card into our hand, and if we do, we get to draw 1 card. So she potentially could be drawing us 2 cards, 1 from our security and 1 from our deck, and that's already just pretty powerful to think about. Even though we are removing a card from our security, we have so many ways of recovering that it's not necessarily the biggest deal in the world, and she can even help turn some of our abilities online to even allow us to recover more. So Lopmon is just another really good card to act as our draw engine, but we don't want to overuse her, so that's why she's being limited to 2. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Lucemon. So Lucemon is an absolutely insane Digimon to be playing around with for this deck just because of how powerful this card is. So what we really care about is the fact that he has this nice on-play ability of Recover 1, so that way we could always try to have another way to recover, and again, constantly recovering means our security is going to be that much more threatening because there's a higher chance that there's going to be a removal card in our security, and that's what we're trying to force into our security. And then on top of which, he also has this another really good ability where if we have 10 or more cards in our trash, then we get to play this card from our hand with a reduced cost of 8. So he really can come into the field for 5 if we need to hard play him. Most of the time we're just going to try cheating him into play, but the game is going to last long enough where getting 10 cards into our trash isn't necessarily the hardest thing in the world to achieve. But regardless, what he's in here for is the fact that he just has this nice recovery ability, and he also has the bonus of being a 10k body. The only downside is we can't Digivolve with him, but again, we're not really looking to Digivolve with him, so he's just acting as another really powerful card to be playing around with. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Greymon. So this Greymon is pretty decent just because he is a security Digimon, and that's all we really care about the card. So what that means is that at the end of the security battle, then this Digimon can come onto the field for free. So when he's checked in the security, he just immediately plays himself, and then he also has the possibility of deleting the opponent's Digimon if they failed the security check. So he just is acting as another card to utilize in our security, and because we have so much recovery, we could try forcing him into the security, and he's just a card to aggress onto the opponent's security with. And then the only other champion of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Ankylomon. So Ankylomon is basically doing the exact same thing as Greymon, except he is a yellow Digimon. Actually, you probably could maximize on Ankylomon and reduce Greymon down to 1 or something, just because Ankylomon, at worst, we could still Digivolve on top of something like a Lopmon, but I digress, and most of the time, we just want to use the card just because he is another security Digimon. Next, on to the Ultimates, I'm going to be running 4 copies of MagnaAngemon. So MagnaAngemon is another really insane card for this deck to be using, and is definitely one of the key pieces to make this deck work, just because he has this really good ability of on play, recover 1. So he's basically doing the same thing as Lucemon, where we just want to utilize the card to constantly try to keep our security as healthy as possible. And again, if our security is as healthy as possible, then it's going to be as dangerous as possible. And on top of that, he even has a nice inheritable ability of, during our turn, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP for every 3 cards we have in our security. So this is really good just because our Megas aren't necessarily the strongest in the game, so making sure that they have a slightly higher chance of being able to survive security checks is definitely a really good plus side to the card. But again, we're mainly just using the card to act as another good recovery card, so that way we could try to keep our security as full as it possibly can be. And then the only other ultimate of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Misty Mon. So Misty Mon is just another pretty decent card to be running just because he's another ultimate with an on-play ability. Again, most of the time we're just going to be hardcasting a lot of our cards anyway, so having Misty Mon have a good upside of allowing us to have 2 of our opponent's Digimon get minus 3000 DP for the turn is still pretty good. This card can combo with a whole bunch of other cards where you could start to play into a little bit of the minus DP sub-theme. So that way, if you're able to play this and literally anything else, then you could just form a really good combo play to just reduce the opponent's DP by a lot and delete a good amount of Digimon. So Mistymon is just another pretty decent Digimon to be utilizing for all of those factors. Next, on to the Megas, I'm going to be running 1 copy of SlashAngemon. So SlashAngemon, his usability is a little bit more limited just because we're not playing a whole lot of level 5s to be working with, but we still like the fact that we could be utilizing him to act as some additional removal because he has this nice when digivolving ability where one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 8000 DP for the turn. So we are a control deck, and obviously we want the opponent to basically not have Digimon on the field, so SlashAngemon is just another way to try to get rid of their Digimon. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Seraphimon, and Seraphimon is the card we want to be digivolving on top of more often than not, just because he has this really good when digivolving ability of allowing us to recover 1, and again, the name of the game is just trying to keep our security as healthy as we possibly can, so Seraphimon allowing us to also recover when digivolving is really, really good, especially if we pair that up with MagnaAngemon, just because we could hardplay MagnaAngemon, recover 1, digivolve him into Seraphimon, recover another 1. So that's just what makes the card really, really powerful. And then on top of that, he has this really good ability where during your turn, while we have 3 or more cards in our security, this Digimon gains security tech +1. So we could even utilize him to try to apply lots of pressure onto the opponent, and the earlier in the game that we see this combo, the better he is, and the more pressure he'll apply, just because more often than not, the opponent won't have a way to recover their security, and in a chip-style control deck, this is definitely a really powerful card to be using. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Magnadramon. So Magnadramon is just another really powerful level 6 that we have to use because it has this nice on-play ability where if we have 3 or fewer cards in our security, then we get to recover 2. So this is just a really good card to be utilizing overall just because the opponent obviously is going to have to attack into our security in order to win the game. So Magnadramon just allowing us to have a really powerful form of recovery is really nice. Yes, we are going to be hardcasting this card more often than we're going to be actually digivolving into it, just because we actually want that on-play ability, and we could just wait it out because eventually the opponent will have to attack into us, so that way we could actually turn Magnadramon online that way. And then on top of which it has a really good ability where when attacking, you get to play 1 level 3 yellow Digimon from your hand for free. So this is really good because it combos with Lucemon, so that way we have a way to cheat Lucemon into play, and it combos with all of our other level 3s that we're playing, just because, again, she could cheat those into play for free, and we don't have to bother spending the memory on playing those cards. So those 2 elements combined just make Magnadramon a very powerful card for the deck to be utilizing overall. And then the last mega of the deck is going to be the level 7, and that is going to be Chaosmon Volderarm at 3 copies. So Chaosmon Volderarm is an absolutely insane card to be utilizing just because we could actually take our Megas and then have some extra usability to them rather than just try to swing with them willy-nilly and hope they live. So Chaosmon Volderarm acting as our level 7 is just absolutely insane, and this card is even more removal because he has this nice when digivolving ability where we get to activate the following effect twice, and the effect we're activating twice is one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 7,000 DP for the turn. So there's just a good amount of flexibility that we could utilize this ability for, so if we need to pick off 2 Digimon on the opponent's field, then we can, or if we need to just delete 1 big Digimon, then he gives us that ability to do that as well. And then he even has a nice on-delete ability of gaining 3 memory, so that way he's even obnoxious to deal with when he's attacking into the opponent's security, and they have to try to deal with him, and if they do deal with him, then the opponent is going to be losing 3 memory. So he is just overall an absolutely fantastic card to be playing around with, and he definitely makes the deck function even better than it did before. Next, onto the options, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Plasma Stake. So Plasma Stake is still a really good option to be running just because as Digimon get stronger and there are more powerful Digimon entering the game, this card just has more viability and more targets that it can hit. So what this card is doing is it has the main ability of deleting one of the opponent's Digimon with 13,000 or more DP. So this hits most of their really powerful level 6s to all of the level 7s in the game. So it's just really good for that. And on top of which it has the nice security ability of activating its main, which is the whole point on why we want to use this card, is to try to force it into our security to end up deleting the opponent's Digimon so we don't actually have to hard play it. But it's a little bit better to hard play than some of the other options just because it has a lower cost of 4. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Trident Revolver. So Trident Revolver is another really good red removal option just because it has the nice main ability of deleting one of the opponent's Digimon with 6,000 DP or less, and then we get to play 1 Tamer card from our hand that costs 4 or less for free. So not only is it deleting one of the opponent's Digimon, it's also going to be allowing us to play our Tamers for free, and even though we're not currently playing a whole lot of Tamers, that doesn't mean that this card won't see more use in the future, just because it's saying any Tamer, and it's not specifically color locked, so we could use a wide variety of Tamers if we really feel like using them. But regardless, just Trident Revolver, the main ability to delete one of the opponent's Digimon, is why we want to utilize this card, on top of which it has the nice security ability of activating its main effect, so that's going to be the running theme of a lot of the cards with security effects, is activating their main from the security or having an even better upside in their security than their main. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gigaforce. So Gigaforce is just the best removal card we have in the game, just because its main ability allows us to delete one of the opponent's Digimon, and then its security ability activates its main, making it just the best option to be running for this style of deck. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Eden's Javelin. So Eden's Javelin is just another really powerful removal option for the deck because it has this good main ability where we get to draw 1 card, and then one of our opponent's Digimon gets minus 1,000 DP for each card in our hand. And that just makes it really good, especially since in the security, you guessed it, it activates its main ability. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Tactical Retreat. So Tactical Retreat is another really cute new option card just because it has a really low play cost and it has the really unique main ability of we get to place one of our Digimon on the top of our security stack face down and then trash any of that Digimon's Digivolution sources. So the best use of this card is to just use it with obviously our security Digimon to swing into their security. Hopefully our security Digimon lives, and then we could Tactical Retreat it back in to our security so that way it's basically recovering us 1, and we know that the security Digimon is going to be popping out when they're going to be swinging into our security. So Tactical Retreat is really good for that, but if we felt like we need to use it on any of our other Digimon just to get a cheap recover 1, then we're more than welcome to do that as well. And then on top of that, it even has the nice security ability of allowing us to recover 1. So when this card is in the security and it's checked, it basically is replacing itself, and that's just, again, really, really good because we need to keep our security as healthy as possible. And then the last option card I'm going to be running in the deck is 4 copies of Seven Heavens. So Seven Heavens is just yellow's Gigaforce, except it's a lot weaker because it only minuses 10,000. So there's just a whole bunch of megas that this won't be able to affect, but it will reduce the mega's overall power. So that way, if the next check that they do, if they do have extra checks, is another Digimon, then there's a high chance that that Digimon is going to delete that mega, or just paired up with another DP reduction card. So if you check Seven Heavens first and then they swing again with another Digimon and check Eden's Javelin, then you could pair those two abilities up to end up deleting the Digimon. But Seven Heavens still has a wide variety and array of Digimon it could be deleting, and that's why we want to be running it, especially since it has the security ability of activating its main. And then the last card of the deck and the only tamer of the deck is going to be 2 copies of TK. So this is the BT01 TK, and this TK is in here for 2 big reasons. The first big reason is he is the memory fixing tamer of the deck. It's not like it matters that much, considering most of the time we're only going to be playing 1 card anyway, but it's always nice to have our memory hard set to 3 if it's ever less than 3, so that way we could try to make our plays as efficiently as we possibly can. But on top of that, it also has a really good on-play ability, where we get to look at our security stack and then take 1 card from among them, and if that card is yellow, then we get to recover 1. So this is just another good consistency tool for the deck, where we get to check our security for a card that we potentially want, and then add that into our hand, and recover 1 as long as it's yellow. So TK is just doing a lot for the deck, but we don't want to oversee him because we don't want to be hard playing our TKs, and we really only just need 1 on the field in order for him to be as effective as he possibly could be. And then there's just a whole bunch of other cards you could think about running in the deck, all depending on what you want to gain out of the deck and how you want to build it. So you could think about changing up the Digitama lineup. So if you don't want to run the red Digitama, you could run Cupimon and Upamon in some combination. And then on top of which, you could think about using Agumon Expert, just because Agumon Expert basically is a 1-card combo, so that way you'll always have a rookie that you could constantly be replaying, so that way you could have a more effective chip game. And then you could also think about playing the Promo Patamon, because the Promo Patamon has a nice on-play ability where if you have 1 or fewer security, then you get to recover 1. So he's just acting as another card to help us recover. Speaking of cards to help us recover, you could also think about running the Promo Gatomon, just because the Promo Gatomon has an on-play ability where you also get to recover 1 if your security is 3 or less. And then it also has the upside where if you have a purple Digimon in play, then it becomes a blocker during the opponent's turn. So if you wanted to run like 3 colors and run yellow, red, and purple, you could splash in a couple of purple cards to try to make that work as well, because purple also has a whole bunch of good Digimon and removal options that we could be thinking about utilizing. Then, if you wanted to, you could also play Puppetmon, just because Puppetmon is still an insane card to be playing around with, and he helps play your Volderarm a little bit more efficiently. So that way you could hard play Puppetmon, get his on-play ability to stunlock the opponent's field, so that way he could buy you a turn, and then you could use that time to try to go up into Volderarm, delete the Digimon, and try to, stabilize the board state. You could also think about running Dandevimon as one of the more premier purple cards, just because Dandevimon is a really good card to just sit on the field because of his passive ability where during the opponent's turn, when a card is removed from your security stack, then you get to trash one of the opponents. So he's acting as some pseudo burn, and he has a nice on deletion ability where the opponent gets to trash 2 cards from their hand. So this is just, again, another really solid purple card we could be thinking about utilizing. Or if we want to play a little bit more into the recovery and we know that we're going to be utilizing Volderarm, we could consider using Racielmon. Racielmon isn't necessarily the best in the world, but she does have a Wind Digivolving ability of Recover 2, and if we're able to get off of her into Volderarm, then we don't even have to feel the downside of her ability, where at the end of the opponent's turn, we have to trash one of our cards from our security. So she's just a really decent card at just recovering 2 really quickly, and hopefully you have a Volderarm to go on top of her. So that's just another really good cute combo play you could do with her. Then we have Shield of the Just as just another good removal option card in red. This does require you to run red tamers in order to make this card even more efficient, so you could customize and tailor the deck to accommodate a little bit more red tamers. You also could customize the deck to incorporate Heir of Dragons, because Heir of Dragons is allowing you to draw 2 cards. And then if you have a Greymon or Dramon on the field, which we do run a couple in the deck, and you could, again, just tailor the deck to accommodate this card a little bit better, then you could also delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 4,000 or less DP. So not only could it be drawing you cards, it also could be removing one of the opponent's weaker Digimon, which both of those things are very, very good. Then you could consider running Holy Wave, just because Holy Wave is an option that just lets you recover 1, and its security ability also just lets you recover 1, so that's just pretty decent. If you want just a really cute tech card, you could think about running Bifrost, because Bifrost is pretty decent, because it reduces one of the opponent's Digimon's DP by 3,000. So it's just a cheap way of reducing the opponent's DP, but if it doesn't end up getting deleted, then it also suffers the debuff of gaining security attack -1, so that way it won't even deal security damage. Or if you just want to run a good board removal kind of a card, you could run Purge Shine. So Purge Shine is probably just a better version of Lightning Paw, just because this hits all Digimon regardless, and Lightning Paw doesn't, all for 1 more play cost. So Purge Shine is just another good card you could consider running. Then if you wanted to run some Red Tamers to accommodate Shield of the Just, the starter deck Taikamiya is really good, just because he has a really low play cost. His ability is just generically decent, and again, he's a Red Tamer for Shield of the Just. Or if you want, you could consider running a little bit more Digimon, a little bit less options, just to try to make the starter deck TK work, because the starter deck TK makes our security Digimon that much more powerful. So when they're checked in the security, then they have a higher chance of winning the security battle, so that way they'll delete the opponent's Digimon that way. But regardless of what you feel like you want to use, I definitely feel like this style of deck is a really powerful style of deck to be playing around with, just because it's playing differently than any other deck, and it's forcing the opponent to play their deck differently, and that might not be exactly what they want. Half the time, they'll just end up losing to deck out just because they'll be digivolving constantly. Then you'll use your 1 card to remove their several, and then they'll just thin their own deck and eventually just lose because they didn't realize that they should start hard playing cards sooner rather than later, so that way they could try to flood the field as quickly as they possibly can, instead of trying to build up 1 strong Digimon to just have it get deleted by an option in security. So it's still just a really powerful deck. It does have its strengths and weaknesses. One of the big weaknesses is purple. It just has a very hard time with dealing with purple, because purple can recur, and purple has some good removal and disruption of their own. But regardless, it's still just a very powerful deck to be playing with across the board, and it does have a lot of solid matchups, and is still just a really solid deck to be playing. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are different ways that you could support me in the channel. So one of those ways is I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so whenever you use that affiliate link to buy cards off of tcgplayer.com, then some of the money will go to supporting me in the channel. And on top of which, I also do stream over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu. So following and subbing is a good way to support me over on that platform as well. And on top of that, I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook. So whenever you buy one of my designs through them, then some of that money will also help go to supporting me in the channel. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.